All right. Welcome, friends, to the Red Death Mask stream. We are here today to continue my coverage of Mr. Americana, the multi-part series from Harvey Brusse? Brusse? Harvey Brusse? I guess that's what I'll call him. Sorry, took me a little longer to get to this stream. I wanted to get to it earlier in the weekend, and then I wanted to start earlier today, and it just didn't happen. The storm going through, half the United States right now. It got cold as fuck here. We had, everything's good now, but I just had to do some extra kind of stuff, because of the weather and everything, and so I wasn't able to stream when I wanted to, and I got to it today, which I don't typically like to stream Sundays, because the new Creepcast episode drops, and I work tonight, but it does happen, and this is one of those days, and the Broncos are playing right now, but because of my commitment to you to not only continue this story, but to just bring you guys regular live streams of emerging new creepypastas or horror stories from the Creepcast community. I am here. I am not watching the Broncos game, although I am listening to my fiance and hoping that she cheers, because then that means we're winning. But yeah, so that's what's going on today. I appreciate anyone who can stop by or whatever, but I'm also, it's kind of a weird time for me to stream, so we'll see how it goes. I'm not really expecting too much, and this won't be as long as of a stream as I wanted it to be, but we're gonna get to some more of Mr. Americana, and I'm gonna try to at least get through the end of the first chapter. I think we read, because remember, each chapter has like 9 parts or so. We read like the first 5 parts. I'm gonna try to read the back, half and criticize that part, so that way we can at least say that we're done with chapter 1. And then the other thing, just like a housekeeping thing at the beginning, is throughout this story there are these links. I'll probably still click on them, but we're not gonna like listen to the songs or watch, because most of them are just music. We just can't, YouTube, it's copyrighted or whatever, and so yeah, we're just but I encourage everybody who checks out the story, or if you read the story, to definitely check out the companion like pieces of art. I think that that's really cool that he added that kind of like aesthetic feel to the story, to where it has all these like songs and videos to go with certain parts of the story, and some of them we might be able to watch, but a lot of them we won't. But I encourage everyone to check it out, because you really get the full experience of the story when you watch those and when you check those out. And yeah, I'm really excited. I was super stoked on the beginning of this story, and I just kind of want to get back into it. So whether or not anyone is here to watch it live, we'll just get into it, and then people can watch it on the re-upload, and then they'll have this to go along with the new episode of Creepcast. They'll be able to watch them both, so they'll be swimming in content. But yeah, I don't have much to say in terms of like a summary of, because the encyclopedic like nature of this story, how Um, it seems like we're getting different perspectives, different stories are unfolding kind of in the different parts at the same time. In one of them, a guy is like a producer, I think, for a TV show that's called like Redneck Mansion or Trailer Park Mansion or something. And it's basically like two families live, compete. It's a reality TV show in which two families compete to like win a mansion. And then yeah, essentially one of the contestants like murders another one of the contestants, and then I think it's like a murder. It's a murder unaliving, and so yeah, that's kind of how the story starts. And then we get a few other perspectives, but essentially, there's this one character who I think makes an appearance at the end of part 5, where they essentially talk about how there's like the Martians, and they their whole life they've been kind of targeted. Hey man, oh perfect timing, right on Harvey. Working on part 40 right now. Hell yeah. See, and he's still, that's another good thing to mention too. Harvey's still working on this series. We got I'll pull up the table of contents here. It's got this great artwork too. A murder on TV, a woman with psychic powers, a sex worker in a fur coat, a recovering drug addict in an Ewok costume, renounce dignity, embrace entertainment, say hi to Mr. Americana. And then, it's got all these parts here. We've got up to 39 right now, and 4 chapters. So that's awesome. And I'm really stoked, because he's been obviously put a lot into this series and it's still unfolding. So I'm excited to kind of, read into it and get caught up. But yeah, just in terms of the summary, I think this woman with psychic powers is the one who essentially is, I don't know if she's like at war with this like Martian like deity that's in her head, but she kind of refers to him as the like god that controls everything, that whatever controls all the conspiracies throughout our reality. And feel free to correct me, Harvey, if any of this is like wrong, or I'm trying to be give a precise enough summary with when I only read it a week ago and I didn't brush up on anything. But yeah, essentially and then there's these like creatures called like camera heads, and yeah, like yeah, she comes into the this woman who we don't know who she is, but she comes into the old folks home during bingo. You see a blur of her fit, and she goes, she's not human, she screamed, or he's not human, she screams. He's wearing a mask, she screams. Stay away from him, he's a fucking camera head. So there are essentially, at least in her mind, these beings that are called camera heads that we kind of see in this table of contents thing, that essentially they do the work of this like whatever Martian psychic god or like devil-esque creature. I mentioned in the first, when I read the first few part, it seems very kind of Mother Horse Eyes. It seems very but it does seem to be kind of like a horror that is centered around like entertainment and consumerism, which I found very interesting, and I like that as like a hook. I like the idea of a horror story that takes place within a reality TV show, or on one part of it is like a scene on a reality TV show, because yeah, that shit can be horrifying. You see some of the worst of humanity and stuff like television and whatever, and so to have kind of a intermingling narrative that kind of touches on some of those places, I think is really fascinating. And so I'm excited. I was thinking of maybe rereading part 5 because it's where we left off. I think maybe I'll just read the end. Because essentially what happened is we have this person, I think maybe, yeah, Gabby. Her name's Gabby. She is a drug addict. She's stealing pain meds, I think, from the people at the old folks' home. And she's running this bingo game. And essentially, she's not even reading off the real numbers that are on the ball. She's just kind of making shit up. And then this crazy lady comes in. As the door swings open and you see her standing there, eyes wild, tinfoil wrapped around her head like a bandana over her long black hair. She scans the room and her eyes land on Henry, who stares back at her with abject terror. She storms across the floor and you stand up to intercept her. "Excuse me, ma'am, you can't..." Before you can even finish your sentence, you see the blur of her fist and everything goes white. Suddenly, you're curled up in a ball on the floor, covering your nose as blood splurts out through your fingertips. Orderlies pour in through the door and wrestle her to the ground before she can reach Henry. She points at him as they drag her away and screams, "He's not human," she screams. "He's wearing a mask. Stay away from him. He's a fucking camera head." They take her away. You climb to your feet and look for a tissue to shove up your nose. "Crazy bitch just had to ruin my high," you mutter to yourself as you wipe your bloody hands off your scrubs, off on your scrubs and sit back down. You spin the bingo cage right on cue and see Gabby's eyes flutter open. You pick up a bingo ball and you don't even pretend to read it before you call out, "N5, bingo," Gabby yells. Okay, so sorry, Gabby is one of the patients there. I don't know if we know this woman's name who got punched in the face and is the drug addict, but I assume we'll find it out at some point. So, yeah, and then I guess the only other thing, now that I'm kind of here and doing the summary, I feel like I didn't do a good enough job talking about the I think the woman's Pamela, maybe. Oh, no. This is a different one. That's the whatchamacalled. That's the reality TV show. This is kind of where you're taking a train back home. You think about what you told Evan back in high school about synchronicity, how everything ties into everything, and how reality is just an extension of consciousness beyond what we recognize as our own dreams and delusions. Like ink bleeding into the other side of the page, making a Rorschach painting. How consciousness is not bound by time and neither reality. How if you can read backwards, you can see messages from the future, from your future self. You tried explaining this to him. You tried explaining how you are attuned to these messages, how they come in numbers and symbols, how the Martian Antichrist tries to confuse you by beaming sexual chaos rays through the television, but he didn't get it. And this person, in this part here is we believe the woman in the tinfoil hat that comes in and punches our drug addict nurse or whatever that's running the bingo. And so essentially, that's kind of it. But I did want to explain this like Martian Antichrist thing because it does seem like there is a clear, at least in that one character's mind, there is a clear sort of enemy in the story, and that enemy is responsible for the camera heads, which sound like they wear the faces of people or take the shape of people, which is a very cool concept, and I like that, and I like the idea. I think it was Ross Road, but it had they called it, that author called it Siren Head Girl, and it was a very cool creature in that story, and it wasn't even necessarily like a bad creature in the context of that story. There was other, I think, more sinister like entities within that story, but it was a very creepy, eerie image, and a camera head I think is just as kind of eerie. And then the idea that they impersonate or pretend to be normal people is very, very cool. So I just kind of wanted to bring that up as a brief recap. I know probably most of the people who are listening to this probably listen to part one, or not part one, but part 1 through 4, let's say, or 1 through 5. And so now we just kind of finished Bingo, Gabby yells, and now we're gonna just hop right into part 6. But yeah, essentially this is gonna be one of those stories where we're not always gonna know whose point of view it is. We're not always gonna know how these segments relate to each other until we kind of do, right? Like we got a hint that the woman with the tinfoil hat is the same woman who sees into the future and reads backwards and is able to read messages from themselves in the future, and kind of knows about this quote unquote Martian Antichrist or these camera head beings, right? And so yeah, let's get into part 6. What's up, Harold? Check back in later. A bit busy right now. Right on. Thank you for stopping by. Appreciate you. Sorry. Sounds like the Broncos help outside. Mr. Americana, part 6. So the police have taken every camera, every tape, every shred of evidence the company could give them. They've taken witness accounts, Polaroids, blood samples, fingerprints. They even took Mama Bear's empty bottle of Coke. Yeah, so this is now back at the reality TV in which one of the characters murdered another person on the show. Or not characters, but person. Now you sit on the subway waiting to get the call that you're cut. It's just you, a teenage girl, and a hobo with a bike in an empty car. There's an ad for Trailer Park Sweethearts on one of the interior cards. Pumpkin pie posted next to Mama Bear and Daddy Bob Man in front of their single wide home. You read the other ads: antidepressants, car insurance, liquor. You imagine a future where scientists bioengineer fruit that grow barcodes naturally, and companies sell portions of the sky to use for ad space. The future, you decide, is one long ad break. Oh God, that's bleak, but very true in a lot of ways too. Um, the teenage girl in the black hoodie sits across from you, and she's writing an advertisement of her own. She vandalizes the aluminum wall, and you read each word as she writes them in permanent marker. Looking for a good time, the message says. Say hi to Mr. Americana. You ask her what it means, and she laughs. Interesting. So we keep hearing that. We've heard that refrain of say hi to Mr. Americana. And it seems to be kind of like a call to action in some ways. Not of like a specific action, but just that like it seems like kind of a mantra of like something really fucked up happens, or the world, like, is really bleak in this way, they're like, say hi to Mr. Americana, like this is what uh it's almost like they're saying like this is what the great American experiment was shooting for from the very beginning. This was the end game the whole time. I don't know. That's kind of my take on it. Maybe it'll mean different things to different people, but it's very very interesting. I'm definitely intrigued. And I like the idea that some people understand of this like secret war going on with this with this Martian Antichrist, or with Mr. Americana, or whatever it is, very fun, very like mentally ill coded in terms of this idea that like, oh, there's a secret cabal of people who understand that we're at war for the soul of the world and yada, you know what I mean? Like very fun, very very fun, very creepy. Okay, so this is a Lindor Do You Dream in Chocolate ad basically, which is very interesting. Again, I'm not going to play it. I don't want to get claimed for a Lindor ad. Then this next one here looks like maybe Charles Manson. Yep. Charles Manson, Look at Your Game, Girl, Better Audio song. So, again, a lot of these are just, they're referential to what we just talked about in that part with the advertisements, and the future is just one long ad break and stuff like that. And then we get a song by, one of the worst murderers of like the 1970s or whatever, Charles Manson, who, had his own sort of theories and whatever, experience as to what he was trying to accomplish, right, with his cult of followers and stuff like that. And yeah, I think it definitely lends itself aesthetically very well to the themes that we've already kind of gotten into in just these first few parts. So I don't know if I'll keep clicking on all the videos because I can't. I just don't know how many of them I'll be able to watch. But I do just want to give you guys a taste so that when you read future parts of the story and stuff, you do go down to the comments and you still watch the reference material too. Because I do think it adds a lot. I've watched some of it off stream, and like that one with the deer where the dude is looking down the scope and the deer comes up and is like sniffing the scope and then just walks away, like super eerie, super like, yeah, you can't look away, very train wreck-esque, and you don't want to watch but you can't look away kind of thing. And yeah, I just think that it's a very cool, like, if you're somebody that likes like multimedia stuff, or you like you picture, oh, like this song would go really good with this scene in a story. Well, rather than like write that song into the story and be like, it was playing on a boombox in the, down the street or whatever, rather than physically writing into the story, I do think that like we live in this day and age of like the internet and posting stuff, and it's like, why not just post it as a companion piece and say, you could even say, as the author, you could say, listen to this while you read this part of the story. It could be as simple as that. And yes, it kind of breaks the fourth wall or whatever. But I think it's really cool. I think I think a lot of art works better and is more effective when you understand the other art that it's referencing, or maybe not even directly referencing, but you understand like um where the author's head is at in some ways, like in terms of like you're like, oh, this song really speaks to the state of mind that this character was in. You know what I mean? Like it gives you a new perspective on things. And I think that's very, very interesting, and something that, like Mother Horse Eyes did a bit with like the Fairy Queen song and stuff, but not a lot of other stories really do. I mean, plenty of stories have like visual artwork to go along with it or stuff like that, but I think that you know, as like just storytelling evolves and stuff, I do think that you can do more, right? As a writer, like you're not just reserved to, okay, words on the page as an author. You can clip in a YouTube video or something, and people have to go watch that video to get the full whatever breadth of the story. Very cool, very cool. Anyways, you ask her what she means and she laughs. So there we go. Here, I want to close out part 6 now. Close out Charles Manson. You're shaking out the last couple drops at the urinal and you get a call from Johnny Burroughs' boy. Huh. So I don't fully know who this is, but we'll see. Um but I do like, cuz it's all written in like second person, right? At least every part so far that I've seen, it just says you're doing this, you do this, you do this, but in the different parts, we know that the characters have changed, right? It's not all the same. You, you means different things from part to part. Sometimes you meant the tinfoil hat woman. Sometimes you meant the uh drug who's stealing, and or the nurse or whatever who's taking the painkillers. You meant the producer on the reality TV show. So um yeah, and it's very fun because each kind of part you're having to figure out who we're talking about, and who this part is about in reference to the parts we've already read. And I think it's a it's a sign that this writer, and I know probably you're listening to Harvey, but I'll talk about it like you're not here because I don't know um if you're going to be here for the whole stream, but it's a sign to me that like this author trusts their audience to be smart and to kind of figure it out as they go, which I think a lot of people, when they're first writing, especially horror or creepypasta, like they do kind of, that's something they always say is like your audience is a lot smarter than you think they are. But in this case, I actually think that Harvey is, treating his audience like, you know, uh, the proper amount. He's giving us just enough to figure things out. Um, but so much like, but still making it a challenge, right? And I think that shows that he has a good grasp on, where his audience kind of rests in terms of how much work are they willing to do to kind of parse through this story and figure out stuff. All right. You're shaking out the last couple of drops at the urinal and you get a call from Johnny Burroughs' boy. You know he looks up to you, but as you read the caller ID, you consider just letting it ring. You already know how it's going to go. He's going to ask you about your day like he gives a fuck. Give you some line about how bullshit working reality working reality TV is. Should it say working? Should it say working in? Give you some line about how bullshit working in reality TV is, even though you're the one who got him the job. And then give you the same pitch for the same script he's been writing, editing, scraping, rewriting, and tossing since he was 21. You take the call anyway, and before you can even say hello, he's telling the whole story, and you're trying your damnedest to keep up. Kid, slow down, you say. It's hard to understand you with all that powder up your nose. He takes a breath and starts from the beginning. His voice is shaking, and it sounds like he's about to cry, but you catch the important details. Murder, suicide, on a TV set. Both stars are dead. The studio needs a fall guy. You figure you can't beat him, so why not join him and pull the 8-ball of coke out of your suit pocket. You set up 3 lines on the counter, roll up a 20, and do the first bump. So she shot herself. Big whoop. You'll get out of this, you say. You think so? Have you ever heard of Gator Grandma, you ask? He says, no, so you say. It's 1994, and this old crackhead named Ruth buys a baby alligator down in Florida. At first, it's kind of cute. She carries it around in her purse and shows it off to her friends, names it Toby, and this local news station picks it up and prints a feel-good story about how she's teaching it how to play fetch in the kiddie pool out back. Then it gets bigger, and it becomes a problem. It starts getting loose and chasing the neighbor's cat. The neighbor, Agatha, hates the fucking thing, but instead of calling the cops or complaining to the city, she takes it to television. You ever watch The Gables Hour with Jeff Gables? He says no again, so you say, it's before your time. If you've seen Murray, it's the same premise. Started out as a political talk show, but no one was interested in that, so they turned it into an hour-long freak show where white trash pieces of shit could go on TV and argue with each other in front of a studio audience. They even sold the audience eggs so they could throw them at the guests they didn't like. I think they had Gigi Allen on at one point. I want to say Kid Rock was in an episode too, but I'm not sure. So, Gator Grandma, he cuts in? Right, Gator Grandma, you continue. So they go on Gables and hash it out. I forgot he did coke, so I'm going to try to sniffle. So they go on Gables and hash it out. Ruth brings Toby on stage and makes him roll over and play fetch and prove he's house trained. Agatha brings her cat, and it bites Jeff Gables. By the end of the show, Agatha's sobbing and wiping yolk out of her eyes. Gator Grandma's chasing the cat down the aisle, and Toby's riding a skateboard across the stage. Roll credits, ad break, do a sequel. Then tragedy strikes. Story goes like this. Ruth starts dissolving Xanax. Okay, so I was already going to say something earlier, but this Gator Grandma is a direct reference to the very real story of the chimp that tore off the woman's face that it's that famous story about the chimp that lived in the South, and the chimp would take Xanax and drink beer too, and the lady just let him completely get drug addicted. And yeah, it's a crazy story. The more you hear about the actual story of, I forget what the chimpanzee is called or what his name was and all that stuff, but the more you like know the details, the more insane it gets, and also the more like the more you start to lose faith in like America. And yeah, and so I'm getting that same vibe with this story. It's clearly kind of a reference to that, but my point is it's based on something very real. So if it sounds outlandish or unbelievable, it's only because yeah, this is an alligator instead of a, uh dissolving Xanax into the dinosaur's water because somewhere in her crack-addled brain she thinks it'll fix his aggression issues. Over the course of a year, Toby transformed from a once promising TV star into a full-time pill-popping opioid addict and wanders his way into Agatha's garden. Agatha forgets her glasses when she goes out that morning to water her flowers. Doesn't even see the fucking thing until its mouth is around her head. Toby tears her jaw out. She stumbles a few feet away and collapses by the pond. In the time that she's unconscious, the alligator drags her into the water, flips into a death roll, and tears her leg off at the knee. The paramedics get her just in time to save her. Losing all that blood turns her into a fucking vegetable. Now the family wants to sue, and the government wants answers. So what does Ruth do? She goes back on Gables. See, now she's the real victim in all this. She doesn't understand how this could have happened. Toby was never violent when she was around. Matter of fact, she wasn't even the one who bought Toby. She was just taking care of him for a friend. Matter of fact, she has no idea where the Xanax came from, but she thinks it's suspicious that sometimes she'd catch Agatha snooping in her backyard at night with bags of white powder. Matter of fact, there's a whole story she could tell about that. But she doesn't think it's right to speak ill of her on TV when she can't defend herself, so she's writing a tell-all book instead, all about how she thinks her neighbor might have instigated the entire conflict, and how her own crack addiction was simply the result of all the stress and trauma she endured at the hands of an intoxicated alligator and her nutjob neighbor. And you can buy it for $15.95. You picking up what I'm putting down? You're saying I should buy an alligator? He replies. Don't get clever with me. Just listen, because this is the shit the industry was built on. Because this is the shit the industry was built on. You grumble. Whatever happened, you had nothing to do with it. You had nothing to do with the fat jokes. You had nothing to do with the fan mail. I didn't have anything to do with the fan mail, he says. Right, you had nothing to do with it. I really had nothing to do with it, he insists. Exactly. You had nothing to do with the fan mail. Matter of fact, you found her crying one night and made everyone turn the cameras off to give us space. Matter of fact, you stood up to those corporate pulp media execs when they tried to take things too far. Matter of fact, she thanked you for being so kind to her just a couple days before everything happened. And that's the other part of it. You don't say words like suicide or homicide anymore. Matter of fact, you don't say any fucking word that ends in side. You bleach it, sanitize it. Now you say, when everything happened, you don't call it the shooting, you call it the incident. You don't know anything for certain. You don't remember. It was all a blur, and every fucking sentence you say starts with allegedly. You stick to that, and you'll be gravy. It's good advice, but you know it won't help him. It ain't the 90s anymore, and this ain't the Gables hour. You figure within the next 2 months, you'll be seeing him on the news, staring down from the top of a building and working up the nerve to jump. Who says you'll be gravy anymore? The kid jokes as you snort a second line. I do, you reply, trying to rub the burn out of your nose. Because I'm fucking fantastic. The kid changes the topic and starts going on about his script, just like you thought he would. You hear a flush, and another guy steps out from the stall at the other end of the bathroom. As he walks up to the sink, he glances over at the Coke on the counter and gives you a weird look. So you cover the mic and tell him that you don't give to charity and he can buy his own shit. By this point, the kid's explaining how he wants to embrace a non-linear story structure, but you're not really interested. So you cut him off and say, if worst comes to worst, at least you have that video to fall back on. What do you mean? He asks. The video of Tubby shooting herself. You reply. We gave all the footage to the cops. You're telling me you don't have a single video of what happened? Not a backup tape or a camera you forgot about? Nope. Well, if you don't have it, somebody else does. And if I were you, I'd be doing everything in my power to get it. 'Cause listen, you find the right news outlet at the right time, and that video will pay your rent for the next year and a half. What about that leak you had a while back? Julie? Yeah, you didn't check her phone, you ask? He says nothing, but the silence is answer enough. If I were you, you say, I'd have a conversation with her. At the end of the call, he asks if you can represent him, and you pretend you're going through a tunnel and hang up on him. Before you snort the last line, you turn to the other guy as he dries his hands and say, that kid needs to lay off the coke. Oh, I love it. I love it. Very, very fun. I like the alligator story. Again, we're getting the sense of everything is entertainment, right? It says that in the beginning in the table of contents. It's like given to entertainment or whatever. Everything is entertainment. A horrible tragedy is just a book deal waiting to happen. And anyone who's a victim is not really a victim, and if they're not there to defend themselves, you say, well, I don't really want to speak ill of them because they're not here to defend themselves, and then you proceed to go on and speak ill of them. You know what I mean? It is like the worst parts of humanity and of like consumerism. It's just the sense that like, if it bleeds, it leads. And, nuance is completely lost and gone. And the only thing that matters is the first, quickest narrative out there, and I like that we're talking to this older guy who got the guy who is our producer on the redneck, trailer park mansion show. We're now hearing this older like dude who's been in the business for a while try to school him on like, well, you need to get that tape because at least if you have that tape, you can always leak it to pay your rent. And you know, a news outlet will pay great for it. So it's like even if it all goes to shit, you have a parachute kind of a thing. Very fun, very evil, very gross. I called this in my description for the video, I called it like kaleidoscopic horror. And I definitely want to stand by it because it's just each kind of part is like a snapshot of an entirely ugly, fucked up, horrifying picture, right? Like we get the alligator snapshot. Then we get the fact that this murder-suicide just happened on reality TV. And next to each other, it's like these each little snapshot only serves to make the other story a little bit grosser, a little bit more horrifying, a little bit more like depraved, you know, just in the indifference that everyone has to all of it. And it really, it works well because I think like this whole pulp media and these companies, I do think that there will be some sinister shit that's like uncovered later, that these companies really are like brainwashing people, or, you know, whatever. There's like experiments, or they're like, you know, I have a feeling that these camera heads are going to be real, that it's not just going to be that the one character is just crazy, you know. I do think we're going to get there, but right now it's just a really fun way to set up a reader with like, this is going to be the tone of the story. This is going to be the, it's not going to take itself too seriously, but at the same time, it's not going to take anything really seriously, right? Even the serious kind of content that's been going on, right? Even that is not really going to be taken that seriously. So, yeah, I'm enjoying it, you know. I don't have like too many critiques at this point. I am, you know, or at least I hope by the end of these first 9 parts, we get to a point where there are some established characters that we know are going to resume, and that we'll be able to at least know their names, or when the story is talking about them, we'll be able to pick up pretty easily that it's them. Because I do think it's important to, unless you just want to write a bunch of short scenes that are maybe loosely related but don't necessarily form a larger narrative, I think it's important to, you know, get our readers invested in some of these characters. Like I am invested in the the younger producer. Like, what did it say? Who his name is Robbie Stevens' kid or something like that, or Johnny Burrows' boy. Yeah. So I am interested in that character, and I'm interested in the script that he wants to write, because it sounds like maybe he's a stand-in for our author in some ways, because the script he's talking about writing with the non-linear storytelling sounds kind of like this story that we're reading here, you know. And then I'm curious what's going on with the tinfoil hat woman and our nurse who got punched by the woman in the tinfoil hat. And I hope that as this continues, we develop these characters and we see like some relationships forming, and we see some understanding start to dawn on people as to like what's going on in this universe, with the over just like saturation of like the commodification of horror, in a way, of like smut and garbage and whatever, you know, all those things. It seems like that's kind of where this going is, that everything is entertainment. Everything is commodifiable, um, if that's even a word. um, anyways, very, very good. I'm enjoying it. Yeah, and I think it's funny this line like that kid needs to lay off the coke. And I also thought, just as a side note, I did think that even though he got mad at this guy first for watching him doing coke, I did think he was gonna then turn around and be like, "And here, you want a line, buddy? Fine, take a line," And regardless of whether or not the guy in the bathroom did take a line, I just thought it was gonna be this funny moment of like where he's like, I don't do charity, blah blah blah. But then at the same time, it's like misery loves company, and cokehead. That's very true. That at first the other guy sounded like he was on coke because he was rambling. We don't know if he actually was, but then this guy does coke because the other guy's rambling at him so much so that he can ramble back. And it is very true that cokeheads love, they'll talk, and that's why like in all the 80s and stuff, all these crazy movies were like these coke fueled ideas that just sprouted up. It seemed like, and it's very fun. And so I kind of would have liked it. Not that it's bad right now. I think it's a great way to end this scene, but I think it would have been great if our narrator or whatever in this part, or our character, the big showbiz guy, so to speak, if he's like, fuck it. I guess I do believe in charity. You want a line, buddy, or something like that? And then it's like they just start doing coke together in the bathroom, and then both of them are talking. I don't know why I thought it was going to go there. I guess maybe because it seemed like the guy was still in there. Yeah, this part is kind of when I thought that last line, you turn to the other guy as he dries his hands and say, that kid needs to lay off the coke. Oh, here, I already pulled part 8 up. Why did I? Okay. Here we got some comments here. The last line is great to Harvey. Was any of this inspired by the movie Network or Death of Christine Chubbuck? This also reminded me of the Chair Company in a good way. I haven't heard of those. I'll have to check those out. I'm super inspired by yeah, Chuck Paul. What is his last name? Chuck Palahniuk. Yeah, he wrote. I've read it. I have the book out in the living room. Fight Club. And actually, I should have mentioned it earlier, but I was gonna say this is very Fight Club esque. Just especially if you've read Fight Club, it's in the movie too. If you watch the movie, I mean, the movie's very good too. But in Fight Club, it is this encyclopedic, like, because of the nature of his job that he starts off in, where he does the math and tries to decide if a company should issue a recall for a product that they know is defective, or if it's just cheaper for the company to pay people off even though they know people are going to die, and that's that character's job. It's just, again, it shows like, yeah, the callousness of like capitalism and the commodification of everything. And it it that book, if you've read it or listened to it or whatever, it does a very good job of like rambling on and bringing up things that are seemingly unrelated, and then tying them together in a really beautiful way. almost like a Lemony Snicket does that too, right? In Series of Unfortunate Events, like he'll start off all of his books in a really random way, and it's not only till the end of the book that you really understand why it is that specific way, like what he was talking about, why it matters, because it works really well in the story. And yeah, I totally see that inspiration, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. Yeah, Fight Club is a modern masterpiece. Oh, without a doubt. And I would encourage anybody who, especially like American authors, I would say, like, if you're a writer, any writer could benefit from reading like Fight Club specifically. But I would say if you are an American author and you want to write about America, his books really help, or that book in particular really helps. Sorry, I haven't read any of his other books, but it really helps because it, like, he captures all these different like subcultures and sub genres that make up the like American diaspora in such a, terrifying but like interesting way. And yeah, I just feel like if you're gonna write especially about today, like in the modern culture, like what's going on in the world today, okay, we've got, the AFC Championship football happening on. We have also got the protests going on in I want to say, God damn it, I'm totally blanking. Anyways, is it whatever Tim Waltz's state? Is it Michigan or Minnesota? Anyways, doesn't matter. So we've got the left, protesting against ICE and all that stuff. Meanwhile, we've got the federal, like, Homeland Security and ICE agents on the other side. So we got, and amongst all of that stuff, there's subgroups that make up the left, the protesters, there's people that make up the law enforcement, the people who support the law enforcement, and there's like everything in between. And I think it takes like a lot of like encyclopedic knowledge, right, in order to kind of accurately describe, let's say the nature of the protest, or whatever you want to say. Like if you were writing a story about stuff going on in America today, yeah, you can't just say like, in my opinion, like to just call one side. I mean, I am, because I'm trying to oversimplify it, but to just call one side like the left or the right is such a misrepresentation of what actually makes up those groups. It's not a monolith. It's everything is an organization within an organization, within a club, within a movement, within a whatever, and yeah, Palahniuk's work really kind of, I mean, that's the whole nature of Project Mayhem, right? And that the fact that they're able to infiltrate all of society because they are the dregs of society, and that's why they're able to like so effectively become this like anti society, anti-capitalist movement, right? Because they're like, we take out your trash, we are the, blah blah blah, we are the dregs of society. um yeah, Minnesota. Thanks Void. What's up, Void? Fight Club has me feeling all Mr. Billy Badass. Hell yeah. Um yeah, it was Minnesota. I don't know why. I don't know why. I knew, like, once you say it's Minnesota, now I'm like, of course it is, but I don't know why in my head all I could think of, the only state that has an M, I was like Michigan. And I knew that wasn't quite right, but I was like um Yeah, it shows America as it is rather than our fantasy of America. It shows the underbelly and the superficial. Exactly. Very well put, Harold. Oh, thanks, man. Yeah, I'm doing pretty good. The only thing I'm bummed about is that I got to work tonight. I don't know if the Broncos are winning. I hope they still are. And yeah, I wish I could stream longer, but that's okay. You know, what are you going to do? Sorry, so I did real quick want to click on the videos, not because we're going to necessarily watch them. So here's a video about Humphrey the Hippo. I'm very curious. I'll probably leave this one open so that I can watch it later. Um, but I don't want to get claimed, so I watch it off the
I've
screen.
seen quite a few recommendations.
And then cell explodes under microscope. Hydrogen peroxide versus germs. Interesting. Okay. Again, just companion pieces to go with this story. Very fun. I'm very interested in the hippo. in Henry the Hippo. Yeah, I need to. I'm really bummed because I listened. I've read Fight Club a long time ago, but then I listened to it on Audible recently, and it bummed me out because it was free and they took it off free. Because now that I was talking about it, I'm like, man, I should listen to Fight Club again. That book was awesome. You know, I love when he's talking about meeting Frank and going to cry with Frank and his saggy man tits and all that stuff. Like, oh god, it's just, yeah, it's so like disgusting, like good, whatever, good writing that really kind of makes you cringe, but then also like yeah, just anything that you think is beautiful, it almost makes you go like, am I just buying the line of bullshit? Like, it is this sunrise actually beautiful, or you know, am I just completely forgetting that I'm looking at like all the pollution and all the whatever, you know what I mean? It has a way of really it is like, you know, it can be a lot for a person. It can definitely bum you out, but yeah, I think it's still worth checking out. That's funny, Harold. What was that state again? Yeah, exactly. All right, part 8. You've been playing guitar for the past 5 hours, but you can't stop because you've only made $38, and the only thing distracting you from the freezing cold is the motion of strumming. You finish playing a cover of Radiohead's No Surprises and pull out a pack of cigarettes. As you light one, you look down at the strings, and there is a red tinge to them now that wasn't there before. You think it might be rust until you look down at your hands and realize your fingertips are bleeding. Your fingertips are so numb from the cold that you hadn't even noticed. You light a cigarette, take a couple puffs, and stick the butt end between the tops of the strings and the headstock so Kurt can have some. You named your guitar Kurt because you know that when musicians die, their spirits are locked in the instrument they played. Kurt Cobain broke so many guitars that he didn't have one to inhabit, so he now lives in your acoustic and bums your cigarettes. That's very fun. I like that. I also like the Kurt Cobain reference. It is just another example of how I do think this story is whatever you can call it, synchronicity, like the story mentions in the beginning, but it is. I do believe in some ways it was written specifically for me, uh, Not actually. Like, I think obviously, um, Harvey wrote it for lots of people to read, but I mean that it caters to my specific interests. Because I mean, I grew up in Washington State. Yeah, I love Nirvana. I love Kurt Cobain. I think Kurt Cobain's such an amazing artist. I think, yeah, it just, yeah, I just love it. I don't want to go into it too much more because then I'm just gonna be talking about like myself and why I love Nirvana when like everyone loves Nirvana. But yeah, it's just funny because I was like, oh, and great, now we're getting Kurt Cobain, awesome. Uh, the wind blows and the the boreal. The wind blows and the boreal air soaks into the red fleece jacket you packed when you ditched home last summer. Back when you'd thought you'd be traveling into the desert before you hopped the wrong train and landed in Washington. You start to shiver a little, and you know it'll turn into the kind of shivering that hurts your chest, that makes it hard to breathe. So you wipe the blood on your jeans and noodle around with the strings while you think of what to play. You heard the chime of a bell as a couple steps out the bar. The warm air from inside washes over your face, and you wish that warmth would last forever. The couple stops, and the man reaches into his pocket, pulls out 2 nickels and a penny, and tosses them in your tip jar. His girlfriend takes his hand as they walk away, she says, "Your music sounds pretty." You thank her, but she's already out of earshot. You know Kurt hates hearing his own songs, but you already did all the originals, and Polly is your favorite anyway. So you play 4 power chords and sing, "Polly wants a cracker. I think I should get off her first. I think she wants some water to put out the blowtorch." And as you play, the man walks up and drops a 5 in your jar. You don't look up at his face, just his shoes as you change the chord progression for the chorus. "It isn't me. Have a seat. Lemon clear. Dirty wings. Let me take a ride. Cut yourself. Want some more help? Please myself." The D string snaps. "Come on, Kurt," you mutter. "Don't be like that." You apologize to the pair of shoes standing in front, and you turn to grab a spare string from your bag. A sudden flash of light hits your eyes, and you freeze. Oh, the freezing is the cameraman, maybe. Your breath grows shallow as you slowly trace your eyes up from his polished leather dress shoes to his belt, to his suit and tie, and finally to the Polaroid camera mounted where his head should be. A photograph falls from the slot at the bottom of his head uh, and lands on the sidewalk. He stares at you, and you watch your reflection in the lens as you reach out a shaky hand and grab the picture. You look down at the Polaroid and see yourself, your eyes wide and glowing red from the reflection of the flash. A message is written over the picture in Sharpie. "Evan says hi." You look up from the photo and the camera head is gone. Oh shit. So this was the our person who was talking about the Martian Antichrist and the camera heads from the very beginning. Um, Harvey says, I love that song. I used to play it when I'd go busking. First half aside from the Kurt Cobain stuff, is a true story. Interesting. Okay. Um, right. So you used to play Polly and stuff on the street, kind of. Is that what you're saying? That's awesome. I love this scene. I love that we get like now we get an image of what the camera head does. That it gives him a message that says Evan says hi. And so Harvey, correct me if I'm wrong, but I thought you said this person who was friends with Evan in high school. Who are they? Are they? Because I thought it was the tinfoil lady, but maybe I'm wrong about that. The tinfoil hat lady, but I might be misremembering. So, um, but yeah, again, I love this scene, and I think that the fact that the camera head just gave him a message that says Evan says hi is very that makes me think that like they got Evan, right? That Evan's in their world. Now does that mean he's like on Mars or what? I don't know. But yeah, Evan's part of the entertainment industrial horror show complex, you know what I mean? In some way. Maybe Evan is the producer, right? Maybe Evan could be the producer of the show. That is a pretty that I think could be a good chance. Um yeah, I love Polly. I mean, yeah, Polly's one of my favorite songs. I love what Polly's about. There's a real woman who was murdered, and yeah, Kurt Cobain just had a very artistic way of like calling attention uh to just disgusting stuff, and he was like a feminist and cared about just a lot of shit that nowadays people might say is like woke or whatever, but to me it was just example of somebody who was way before their time and who was just like genuinely a good person who um almost too good for the world in some ways. Like, yeah, of course he was a drug addict and all that stuff. You could argue that, that may have made him shitty or whatever. Um, but even drugs, like there's direct quotes. I always love to tell people like one of my favorite quotes from Kurt Cobain is because he's quoted saying this. He says, like drugs are bad, they will fuck you up. And it's just a very clear message to like children or people who idolized him that it's like, he's like, no, I don't like whatever. He got addicted to drugs. He was an addict, but he's like, don't celebrate me because I was an addict. Celebrate the music I made, celebrate whatever. The drugs didn't ever help me with that. um it's okay. I just because I assume that you're a male because with the name Harvey, but again, that's an assumption. I could be wrong. But then when you said this is a true story, I'm like, again, so I'm like, is this a different character or is it the same one? I wasn't sure about that. It's a girl. Sorry for the confusion. I just included that experience with the fingertips for her character because it felt right for her. No, and it does, and I like it. I think it adds. I think it shows the cold. It shows how cold she is. It shows the realness. I do think like I like that we have the character's name Evan and stuff. I don't know. You probably have a good reason for doing this, but I do think that by this point in the story, it would be okay to start being like, you can still say you do this or you can still talk in that second person, but just so that for me as a reader, I can keep it all clear in my head. Because I'm not reading this all at once, right? I'm reading this over with breaks in between and stuff. I do feel like I'm gonna need some names here pretty soon, or I'm just gonna start getting confused. I'm gonna start misremembering who was in a certain part and yada yada. And maybe you want that, right? I'm a dude, haha. Cool. Cool, me too, dude. No. But anyway, so yeah, I think it serves a purpose, you not naming like a lot of the characters up to this point, but I do have to say that um yeah, I don't know if it doesn't serve a purpose, I think name them sooner because I am getting attached. I like the characters, but I don't even know who I'm attached to. I just know I like the characters in this story. You know what I mean? So it's a little weird, but weird is fine. It's a weird non-linear story anyways, right? So it's like we can, you know, shit can be weird. That's fine. So, and here we have, I was gonna guess, I was like, I bet this is gonna be Nirvana Unplugged. Yep, hell yeah, dude. Love it. Again, I won't play it. I don't want, Nirvana or Courtney Love to fucking take my stream down, but great song. I'll listen to it later. And I love the unedited of specifically the 93 Unplugged shows. Like I love the part where Kurt Cobain's like, he's like, remember that cartoon and blah blah blah. We will tar and feather him and blah blah blah. And he's just talking with the band like that, and he's like, I love the part where he's like, that was horrible. That wasn't Christian at all. I love those little moments because I've watched that whole live concert back to front. I love Nirvana Unplugged. I specifically love acoustic shit. I'm a big like, but have you heard the acoustic version guy? Because yeah, that music just speaks to me a lot of times, just as much, if not more, than the album version or the rock electric version of stuff. Like one song I love, that I will stand the acoustic version goes harder 1,000% is Census Fail. If anybody's ever listened to Census Fail, um, I'm not gonna play it. So like, oops, the stream is up. This one, rum is for drinking, not for burning. Acoustic. I love this song. I've always like I'll listen to the acoustic version anytime. The regular version I don't like nearly as much. So yeah, just something to bring up. This is a really fun song. If you want a song that's kind of like screamo emo pirates, I would listen to this song. It's yeah, it's like this captain goes down with the ship. Yeah, it's basically about pirates fucking doing what pirates do. Very fun song though.
Sad to think what.
Oh, Kurt Cobain predicts the future. Fuck it, I'm gonna watch
State of
this
rock
because
and
I
roll
haven't
will be
seen
in
it.
20 years from now. It just seems like when rock and roll's dead, the whole world's gonna explode. And it's already so rehashed and so plagiarized that it's barely alive now. It's disgusting. I mean, kids really don't even care about rock and roll as much as they used to, as the other generations have. It's already turned into nothing but a fashion statement and an identity for kids to use as a tool for them to fuck and have a social life. And at that point, I really can't see music being of any importance to a teenager, really. I think they'll use sounds and tones and use it in their virtual reality machines and just listen to it that way and get the same emotions from it, and then go to a party. There'll be a virtual reality machine there with a whole bunch of headphones, and if you want to talk to people and listen to the virtual reality machine, you can do that, and go into the other bedroom and fuck and drink. But actually, I think virtual reality machines will actually get you high. Technology will be that good. And then there'll be like virtual reality junkies finding them dead on their couch from ODing.
Flesh in her face. With her horse eyes, flesh in her face. Yeah, what a legend. What a fucking cool guy. Love you, Kurt Cobain. Miss you. You're still alive, brother. You're still alive in this story. The spirit of you lives on in Mr. Americana. We love you. Yeah, but you see what I mean, where we just watched that one, and I know it might have been kind of hard to hear, but these pieces are just accenting the story so well. You really have to read these parts, and then you have to watch these videos if you want the full experience. Which honestly is why I'm glad that obviously I would love to do it on stream. And I would love to comment on it all and talk about it all with you, Harvey. But I do hope that me not watching some of the clips will get people to go click on these parts of the stories and upvote them, which I don't know why this part doesn't have any upvotes. I'll upvote it. And will get people, interested in the story, because I think the companion pieces are just a great collage of art too. I mean, in this we got two great videos, one where Kurt Cobain predicts the future and one that's maybe the most popular unplugged show of all time. I think it's maybe one of the highest selling unplugged albums of a rock band of all time. I mean, Nirvana, yeah, that album has to be very high up there. That's an amazing concert from back to front. I love it. All right, part 9. The end of chapter 1, I think. The raindrops on the window of the taxi form a Rorschach that tell you the future. 2 drops hit the glass at the same time, and they're Jesus tears because they glow. You watch as they slide down together like 2 dogs in a race, and when the tear on the right hits the bottom of the window first, you tell the driver to turn right at the next intersection. You've been practicing this routine for the last hour. Lady, you figured out where you're going yet? The driver asks. We're almost there, you say. You said that the last time we went down this road and the last time we were going that way, he says, pointing his thumb behind him. We're close, you insist. I can feel it. Whatever you say, sweetheart, he replies. Just pay up when we get there. You watch the collage of neon signs, traffic lights, and alleyways disappear into the darkness. The nightlife flocked together in scattered droves, like crows in raincoats hiding beneath a canopy of umbrellas, leaving trails of cigarette smoke as they dart in and out between strip clubs and bars. You wonder how many of them are really human. 2 more tears slip down the glass. This time the left dropped wind, so you tell the driver to turn left. He mumbles something under his breath, but obliges, and when you stop at the next right, you see him. He looks older now. His hair is shorter, and at first you don't recognize him. But as he climbs up the subway steps, you see rays of destiny beaming off his umbrella. Suddenly, you're throwing the door open and screaming, Evan! turns toward the sound of your voice and you yell, Evan, Evan, it's me. His brow furrows and he looks at you, but after a moment it clicks. Laura? He shouts back. You smile and you're about to run out and meet him when you see two men walk up the stairs behind him. They each rear up and remove their skin masks, revealing two lenses with where their faces should be. So Evan is with the camera heads, and Laura was kind of using her powers to find Evan. That's cool. Again, another cool scene, and now we're getting somewhere, and we got the names, which I'm very happy. Now that I have some names, I'm very happy. We got Laura, we got Evan. Laura, we know, is our guitar player / one who knows about the camera heads and the whatever. And she told Evan a long time ago about the Martian Antichrist and the camera heads. This is very fun, very cool. All right, let's. Sky is a Landfill by Jeff Buckley. And then an ad for Jared Jewelers. Captivate by Jared. Elegance bound in infinite love. Very, very, very fun. I am curious to watch these ads too, either, and see how creepy they are. Some of these ads, I think one was like a Lindor chocolate ad, and just see if any of these ads get real creepy too, you know? All right, so I believe we are on to content warning, hazing. Okay. I believe we are on to part 10 now. Or sorry, part 10, but chapter 2. So yeah, this is, I say that because now we've read the first 10 parts. Once we get through that, and yeah, chapter 2, who knows if things will change in terms of how the story is told or anything like that, but we'll just have to see. I just think it is kind of important to note when these chapters begin and end, for the sake of, the story. So we have part 1 through 9, and then chapter 2, part 10 through 20. So yeah. All right, piggies, you shout, marching from one end of the dorm to the other. Raise your hand if you think you're prettier than Queen Chelsea. All 5 pledges stand at attention. You shaved their heads, smeared makeup over their faces, and they all endured it just to join your sorority. Your boyfriend, Robbie, records the whole thing. You single out the girl at the left end of the line. I saw your hand budge, Sarah, you say. She's crying, so you motion Robbie to shove the camera in her face. Do you think you're prettier than me? She shakes her head. I can't hear you, fatty, you yell. You call her fat. Not because she is fat, but because she thinks she's fat. Matter of fact, she's barely skin and bones. She's been eating once every 2 days for the last 3 months. Last week, she blacked out in English and hit her head on a desk. No, she whimpers. No what? No Queen Chelsea. You know what? You say. You just earned your spot at the front of the line. She breaks into a deep sob as you turn to Robbie and say, Babe, can you bring me the tattoo gun? Robbie turns and pulls the tattoo gun out of her bag. You act like it was your idea, but Robbie was the one who planned all this. It's for this project he's been working on with his little brother. Sarah begs you not to. She tells you her parents will kill her, that she'll be expelled and she won't be able to get a job. Tell her to hold out her hand. She obeys, and you spend the next 5 minutes listening to her sniffling as you tattoo each letter into her palm. Hi, Mr. Americana. There's that refrain again. So I do think this is going to be a new character. I don't know if we're getting some of the backstory of maybe our drug addicted nurse or who, but this is fun. And I like that we start off with the evil hazing. That I feel like this Chelsea person is just gonna get this girl unalived essentially, and yeah, I mean, what a horrible thing. Like, I don't know. I was never in a frat. I can understand why people want to do the parties and like all that stuff. Like that stuff, I get it. For a college kid, that sounds fun. I don't understand the whole pledging process. That to me always just seemed crazy. Unless it's just like fun, like okay, streaking. Like we're gonna make you go streak around campus. You know, like something like that. Relatively harmless, but the whole like all right, you stupid motherfucker. You know, the whole slave aspect of like pledging and doing all that shit is, I've always just found really weird. And don't get me wrong, like I love old school. Like I love the movies that are about that, you know. Um, but even in old school, it was like they hazed them, but it wasn't like that. It wasn't like mean spirited. It was like, do you believe that I've given you enough rope so that your block will land securely on the lawn? And they're like, yes, sir. You're my boy, Blue. You know, like shit like that. Like that is fun. I like that. But God, you know, hazing just needs to die. Hazing for club or frat purposes, you know. But yeah, that's part 10. I do think it's an interesting place to leave off. Unfortunately, that's where I'm gonna leave it. Not really because I think it's like a great part to end on. I think even part 9 would have been better to end on, but I did want to read at least the part 10, and I can't stream that long today because, as I said, I gotta go to work and stuff like that tonight. So yeah, I'm gonna call it early, but I did want to just get one quick stream in for you guys, and so you know that I'm committed to this story and that I am gonna read. I'll probably read at least till part 20. I'll probably get through chapter 2, because it's short. I think honestly we could even read through them faster. I just kind of am taking my time and still clicking on the the uh the side videos and stuff to get the sense of what they're about. But so far what I think is going on is I think Evan might be the producer of this reality show. I think Laura is maybe the tinfoil hat woman, or whatever happened with that. When she punched the nurse doing the bingo, who was high. But I also I think that possible there are different like timelines being played out, and in some of the timelines I'm of the opinion that maybe Laura is like not completely crazy, or it's earlier on before she fully went crazy. But then I thought it said she was an older woman when she went into the old folks home. So I don't know. But I'm very interested. I do think that in these next 10 parts, what I'm hoping for, what I'm looking for as a reader, is I'm hoping we get to peek behind the curtain a bit to understand what exactly these camera heads are up to. Because I remember it says that, like, Laura's special and they do things to like trap her or something. I don't know. I gotta go back and read that part again, whatever that was, that like part 2, I think it was. I do need to read that again because I think that part is very important to understanding the other parts of the narrative. If I was gonna change anything about the story, and I don't even know if it needs it or if I would, it's not gonna be much. I just do think it might help with some people to retain their attention throughout the different parts if there was a way for us to know, okay, who are we talking about in this part? Is it just a spin-off? Is it just a one-off that's like about the uncle that got the guy his job at the as the producer for the reality TV? Because if that's the case, I think it can just be called Mr. Americana part whatever. But I do think if some of these parts are going to be about like Laura, it could just be Mr. Americana part 8 Laura. And I do think that just adding that name once we get their name is just gonna be a way to very quickly get the reader, because this story's very discombobulating. Like this, there is a narrative that's going through on this, but I could see why a person might just read one part and just go whatever, or read a couple parts and see the differences and just kind of be like, well, those were cool, but whatever. Whereas, like, I want more people to read more parts of this. And so I think anything we can do to try to, I don't know, support people who are trying to kind of figure out the narrative as they go, might be helpful. But that's just an idea that I have. I'm not saying that you should definitely do that, Harvey. It's something that I'm like, I think you should think about as the writer of the series. Um, and then I don't know. I guess my other question is, are the camera heads just because at least people see them, right? And like Laura interacts with them and she gets the photo of Evan that says like, or of themselves that says say hi to Evan. Um and so I guess what I'm wondering is this Martian Antichrist thing, are we ever gonna see them or what they are or what they do? Or are we only ever gonna interact with the camera heads throughout this story? And if that's the case, if we are primarily just gonna interact with the camera heads, I do think like it's creepy, the idea of people taking off a skin thing and having a camera head. I am wondering like what the stakes are though. Like do the camera heads just capture you and like force you into a life of like corporate servitude, or are the camera heads brainwashing? Like, I kind of just want to know, cuz right now they're just kind of like the creepy, man in the shadows or whatever. But if all the man ever does is kind of stay in the shadows and like take your picture once in a while, I mean, don't get me wrong, it's still very creepy, but I guess I'm wondering where the stakes are. Is Laura running from these things? Is she is she feel like she's fighting with them, but then at the same time they're everywhere that she goes? Or is she able to kind of stay away from them, so then the parts when she does run into them are that much more like terrifying, you know? And part of that is just because we haven't like stayed with Laura the whole time. We don't quite know like her mental state from one time. I mean, we know that she believes she sees into the future, talks to her future self, stuff like that. We know she's using the raindrops to tell her when to turn left and right, and then somehow that leads her to Evan, which leads us to believe that maybe she does have some psychic mystical powers, But that's kind of where I'm at right now. I'm like, the camera heads are a cool villain, cool, creepy, like henchman idea, but like I want to know what the stakes are. I want to know if they catch her, will they kill her? If they catch her, will they like lobotomize her and make her part of their entertainment corporate empire, or whatever. So yeah, I'm kind of curious about that. And yeah, I will say that like so far in the series we've seen a lot of like societal, like gross style of horror. I am wondering if the series is ever going to get into a more like direct mystery, suspenseful style horror. Like, are we ever going to get a part where like Laura or Evan or somebody's like walking down a dark hallway? Is that ever going to pop up in the story? Or is that just not really what the point of this story is? It doesn't really want to be that type of horror. So these are just chapter 3-5 will explain a lot. Chapters 3-5. So chapter 3 part 5, I'm guessing is what that means, will explain a lot. And that's what I thought. I thought we were just kind of too early on. But yeah, that's just where my head's at right now with the story. I really love it. I'm really interested still. I still plan on reading. Harvey, explain that to me. By chapter 3, do you mean chapter 3 part 5? Because if that's the case, then I'll definitely have to read at least until chapter 3 part 5, or part whatever that means. Third, I don't know. Or I guess it wouldn't be part 5 then. It would be chapter 3 through chapter 5. Okay. So yeah. Um yeah, and that's cool. And like I said, don't get me wrong, I've only read the first 10 parts of this, but they are short, bite-sized parts. So like, I might be taking this really slow, but really you could easily read, you know, into part 3 in one day. Um but yeah, that's just kind of where I'm at right now. The questions I have about the story. We haven't we our woman with psychic powers to me definitely seems like Laura. Sex worker in a fur coat, we don't really know. Drug addict in the Ewok costume might be our nurse. I don't know about that, but and the murder on TV is obviously our producer guy. And so yeah, and I think, yeah, I'm curious if it's ever gonna play in those more uh typical horror areas, or if it's gonna stay in this very like almost non-serious, like psychedelic, uncanny horror zone. Which, don't get me wrong, the part I think probably my favorite, like, or the part that I thought was like genuinely the most scary was the part when the camera head comes and takes her picture, while she's playing guitar. Like that part definitely like got me, and I was thinking the cold night air. That part was definitely fun. But then yeah, a lot of the other parts are just are just like gross, or they're just like fucking, it's very brutal. It's like brutal, but it's not necessarily like scary, horrifying quite yet. And yeah, I am I'm sorry I didn't read more on this stream, but I do want to say I appreciate you, Harvey, for coming, for being in the chat and like answering my questions and stuff. And yeah, I just, I guess so. You have part 4 written. Part 5 isn't written. You're writing part 40 now. So it looks like 9 chapters, each with about 10 pretty short parts. What are you going to do with this when you're done, I guess? It sounds like because you have 9 chapters planned out, it sounds like you have a pretty specific length. But yeah, where are we going to go with Mr. Americana? Like, when you've posted all the parts, I guess, is another thing I want to know. But yeah, I think what I'm enjoying the most about this story is just how in one part we can be talking about Kurt Cobain and like listening to a song or an interview of him, and then in another part it jumps to this really shallow like Chelsea girl hazing her whatever. And although it's like sad and fucked up, it's kind of funny too. So I think that I don't know. I understand why this story might not be for some people, but I also do think that the more you read of this story, it's got to have something for everyone. A psychic woman, a recovering drug addict in an Ewok costume, I just don't see how you couldn't, the more you got into it, like it, I guess, But I'm curious. Harvey says, I like to publish it eventually. You will definitely see more of the Martian Antichrist. And I was hoping so. I was hoping that wasn't just like a boogeyman in a closet. But also, I don't know. I was like, these camera head things seem to be like, I don't know, maybe so like powerful and elusive that like, I was kind of like, do you need anything else? I don't know, so yeah, and all these come together in some way, right? Yeah, and I knew, or I didn't know that, but you get that sense reading the story with how it speaks about synchronicity and stuff in the very beginning. I'm just really excited to see it start coming together now, I'm already in, I'm already, locked in, I'm convinced in the merits of this ride and the story that it wants to tell. I think right now I'm just I'm excited to see the parts starting to intersect and cross over and all that stuff. And maybe I'm getting excited too early on, maybe I'm getting, maybe I need to do more of the legwork of reading like all of chapter 2 and stuff before I can really start to get excited. But I am stoked. And I do think that these short parts are fun though, because it does give a sense of like, you're getting through something quickly, and so especially if you had a lot of people reading this, I think if you came out with a part just like every few days, it would really engage a reader base, So hopefully that's what we can, do on this stream, is just continue to keep following it and showing it love. But yeah, I do plan on continuing, like I said, on a future stream, hopefully this week sometime, and hopefully I can get through, a lot more of it. So yeah, that's gonna do it for me today, guys. Sorry, I woke up early this morning, and so now I've been up for a while, and normally I'd be sleeping all day, so I'm feeling kind of weird anyways right now. I'm feeling kind of out of it. But then yeah, I will go to work tonight, and then I'll probably try to, assuming we're not that busy, I will try to stream some night when I get off work this week, and I'll try to go for a few hours. But I appreciate everybody who stopped by and everybody who's watching on the VOD. Thank you guys. Also, I didn't say anything at the beginning. Sorry, I forgot. Special shout out to Bear. I'll just, Bear, you know who you are. The thumbnail looks great. I got it to work. If you guys want to know why my thumbnails are so kick ass, look no further than Bear or Affectionate Leave, I believe. Sorry, I don't want to get the numbers wrong on his Reddit username. Whatever, it's in the description. You guys know who it is, but I'm back on for the end of this. Sleep well, man, and good luck with your story, Harvey. Yeah, no, I definitely will. But yeah, if you guys, he's just a kick-ass artist. I don't think he takes commissions or anything, but definitely show Bear some love if you happen to talk to him in Discord or on Reddit or whatever. Affectionate Leave. Verdant Voidling, very interesting story. Awesome stream, Red. Have a good day at work. I will certainly try, guys. I wish I could just stay here, and I wish this was my job. So hopefully one day, we'll see. But shout out to you all. Void, I'm going to be covering Mr. Americana for a little while longer, but I do want to cover more of your stories too. So please, please send something my way if you got something new you want me to check out. And I'll add it to the list. But anyways, thanks, guys. Appreciate you. It was a fun one.